With this crown, I declare you our sovereign. All hail the king! I, Esdras, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people, whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, with songs. And in the midst of them, there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. Receive this crown as a blessing from the Most High. May your reign be just and prosperous. So I asked the angel, and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing, and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. With this crown, I bestow upon you the legacy of our people. Rule wisely. Now are they crowned, and receive palms. Then said I unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them, and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of Yahweh, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord. With this crown, I charge you to lead our people with wisdom and strength. All hail the new king. Hail! Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way, and tell my people what manner of things, and how great wonders of the Lord thy God thou hast seen. I now crown you king. All hail the new king. Long live the king!
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS, who rule well, teach well, being great examples for his younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth, and in sincerity across the four winds, in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. All right, and what I want to get into today, okay, is this video put up by the brother, all right, Yaquab, all right, the Hopeful Lake 3 is his channel, okay, and it's dealing with this this guy Saeed Bosman, you know, and he's a critic, you know, of Western culture, okay, and he spoke some things. Went like a 5-minute rant. It's a snippet of a video. He's going on like a 5-minute rant and criticizing the West, you know. And what I want to touch on is the nature of the West. You know, is completely opposite, okay, of the nature of the East. You know, and we know that the Bible, all right. You know, people say, well, the Bible is based on Eastern culture. Well, Eastern culture, a lot of Eastern culture is based on the Bible, all right, because the righteousness of the scriptures, okay, are the standards of righteousness, you know, and a lot of things that you see in Eastern culture, okay, is directly linked, all right, to the righteousness of the scriptures, you know, certain customs, all right, that still are in place, you know, in a lot of those far Eastern, you know, nations, you know, a lot of them have been turned out, you know, everything has been, you know, tainted, okay, by Esau Edom, okay, through the whore, through America, you know, majority of the earth has been, okay, corrupted, some more than others, okay, but you have traces, all right, or residue of the righteousness of the scriptures, within Eastern culture, okay, and it's completely opposite from, Western culture, okay, because in the West, people are cultivated to be, self-centered, all right, narcissists, okay, self-worship, okay, self-absorbed, okay, and that's the culture of, the West, hyper individualism, okay, and it's completely opposite, when you go into the scriptures, because you go into the law. The law is a culture that was selfless, okay. Everything was all about the greater good, okay, of the nation, okay. Everything was based on benefiting the nation, the well-being of the nation. You go into the law, statute, and commandment. It's like an immune system. Okay, it's like a filtering system. It's meant for it to heal the nation when something is off. Okay, it's meant to filter out things that ain't right and get rid of it. Okay, when you go into the law. Okay, just like an immune system. All right, operates. To keep all right the body. Okay, in the state of ease, in the state of peace. Okay, well, the West is the exact opposite, man. Okay, so when the scriptures say, I want to get a few precepts before we get into that video, just to show, all right, the selflessness of the scriptures, and also the Shah being that prime example. Even the Most High, he showed selflessness by uh, sacrificing Shah, allowing Shah to be tormented, all right, for our behalf, for our embetterment, okay, as a people. Okay, so let's go here, and that's why the teachings of the scriptures, when you go to St. John 3:3, it says, Yahweh shall answer him, I assure you and most solemnly say to you, unless a person is born again, reborn from above, spiritually transformed, renewed, sanctified, he cannot ever see, all right, and experience the kingdom of the Most High. And that's St. John 3:3 in the AMP. You know, so unless we become spiritually transformed, renewed, okay, sanctified, separated, okay, from the way of thinking of the West, okay, then we're not fit, okay, for the kingdom. You see, the kingdom starts now, with us all right, forming unto righteousness, man, okay, growing into this new man, okay, and putting to death that old man, which was anti-Messiah, okay. That old man was full of, you know, um, flaws, okay. It was a perspective, it was, we had an outlook that was in opposition to the Most High, okay, in opposition to Yahweh. All right, so that's why when we come into this truth, we have to offload, we begin to offload the ways of the West, because repenting, turning back, well, turning back to what? And when you turn back to something, okay, you have to let something else go. All right, because in order to walk, all right, in Yahweh, you see, the flaws and the perception and the outlook, okay, of the West, okay, has to fall off with it, man. As we put on Yahweh. All right, let's go here to the book of Ephesians. You see, it's the book of Ephesians, chapter 4 and verse 21. Okay, it's Ephesians 4 and 21 says, if in fact you have really heard him and have been taught by him, just as truth, all right, just as truth in Yahweh revealed in his life, all right, and personified in him. So we really, okay, are being taught of Yahweh. Okay, we look to Yahweh for how to be going into us, becoming Yahweh, which we often get into that. It said that regarding your previous way of life, you put off your old self completely. Okay? You put off your old self completely, discard your former nature, which is being corrupted through deceitful desires, man. It's this place told us to be covetous. Okay, it taught us to be vain. It taught us to be self-absorbed and only concerned about what directly affects us and us only. Okay, because there is an element, of self-care. Truth doesn't tell you to neglect you. Okay, but our self-care should be linked to the embetterment. Okay, of more than just us, and that's why the Lord has us a part of a body. Okay, we all have our own walk. Okay, we have our own things that we got to overcome, but we're overcoming. Okay, for the sake of benefiting the whole. Okay, it's never just about us. Okay, it's a dynamic of personal things we have to overcome. You know, and we're overcoming these things that Yahweh Shah he overcame. Those personal things that he overcame. Certain lust and desires that was in him that he overcame. Okay, for our behalf, man. You see, and we're on this same walk. Okay, verse 23 says, "And be continually renewed in the spirit of your mind, having a fresh, untarnished, all right, mental and spiritual attitude, man. Okay, having a fresh, untarnished, mental and spiritual, okay, attitude, man. You see, so coming into the truth, is vital, to put off that old man. Okay, because that old man is displeasing. Okay, to Yahweh Bashem Shah. All right, and just as a woman wants to be continually pleasing to their husband, we begin to learn, okay, a way and walk in a way that's pleasing to our power. You see, and when you go into the Most High, when you Howard Shah, where they set the tone of being selfless. Okay, when you go to the book of Romans, chapter 4, okay, no, chapter 5. Start at 6. It says, "While we were still helpless, powerless to provide for our salvation at the right time, Hamashiach died as a substitute for the ungodly." You see, Yahushua died as a substitute. All right, that alone, the fact that he will substitute himself, okay, for our sake. Okay, that's an act of what? Selflessness. Okay, it says, "Now it is an extraordinary thing for one to willingly give his life, even for an upright man, though perhaps for a good man, one who is noble and selfless and worthy, all right, someone might even dare to die. But the Most High clearly shows and proves, all right, his own love for us by the fact that while we were still sinners, Yahweh Shah died for us, man. Okay? So the fact that Yahweh Shah was willing to take, a death, and not just a regular death, a torturous death, okay, to put the nation back in good standings. Okay, that was an act of selflessness. All right, it was a one who is noble and selfless. Okay, and worthy. It was bigger than him. All right, go back to what Hebrews 12:2, the joy that was set before him. Okay, was about what? What was that joy? Okay, of having his people restored back to power, beginning with the first fruits. Okay, and eventually all of Israel, man. Beginning with the first fruits and the elect. Okay, for them to have grace, in this time of great judgment in the end. Okay, that's why you read verse 9. It says, "Therefore, since we have been justified, declared free of guilt of sin by his blood, how much more certain, all right, is it that we will be saved from the wrath all right, of him, okay, of the Most High through him, okay? So he was considering, okay, way more than himself. He wanted to establish that grace period so we can, be pardoned. Okay, the hopeful elect can be pardoned in these times. Because he understood the judgment at the end. So he was willing to take that torture. Okay, back then. To save us from being tormented in this time. All right, which that's all right. The aspect of what salvation. He only did that for Israel, man. Okay, and we're gonna keep putting it out there. All right. Now, even how Yahweh shall live, okay, which he sacrificed his body on the cross, but then he sacrificed his personal life. Okay. That's why he didn't deal with a family. He didn't, he even walked away from his career as a carpenter. Which you can make a decent living, okay, as a carpenter, man. There's a lot of building projects going on during the time of Yahweh Shai. The Roman Empire was building. Okay, they had a lot of things going on, which would have made being a carpenter, okay, a lucrative, income. Okay. But he even walked away from that. All right. He told one day, look, I don't even got no other state. You talking about following me. All right. I don't know what you think this is. This ain't the glitz and the glams. I know you probably heard about the fish and, walking on water, and the miracles. But this ain't, this ain't what you think. Okay. Hebrews 10:5 said, therefore, when Hamashiach enters into the world, he says, sacrifice and offerings, sacrifice and offering you have not desired, but instead you have preferred a body for me to offer. Okay, a body to offer, man. You see? So he ultimately sacrificed his body on the cross. Okay, but he also sacrificed that life. He sacrificed, the enjoyment of particular things that, he under the law he had liberty to do. He had liberty to have a life. I mean, a wife, children, wives, however. He had the liberty to do that under the law. You see? But he sacrificed, certain perks, okay, to complete the assignment. He didn't want to compromise the assignment, man. Going into that spirit of selflessness. You see? You go here to, all right, and he was the standard of obedience. Okay, to where he put obedience to the Father above everything. And this is what, we are born into when we say we're born again. We're born into this way of thinking, this way of being. Okay, I'm gonna get this in the NLT. Okay, so, Hebrews 5 and 9 says, in this way the Most High, all right, qualified him as a perfect high priest, and he became the source of eternal salvation for all those who obey him. Okay, I'm just like jump the gun. Verse 8, Hebrews 5:8 says, even though Yahweh Shai was the Most High's son, he learned obedience from the things he suffered. Okay, so Yahweh Shai, all right, was an example of obedience even in suffering. Because we know, guess what? We're coming into an ultimate time. All right, well, we're going to have to be willing to sacrifice it all to stay obedient. It's going to cost us everything to stay obedient to our power in the times to come. Not taking the seat hill, not bending the knee to the beast system, because the devil is switching this whole system, and we're going to have to be obedient, all right, as this thing is switched over. We're going to have to be willing to not participate in this society and not knowing, how the Lord's going to provide, but still walk away. And there's going to be obedience and suffering, which the Lord has us obeying as we suffer things now. You know, we all have our own suffering, and the Lord still requires us to be obedient. You see, suffering wasn't an excuse for Yahweh Shai to be disobedient. Okay, just because things ain't in our favor, how we think they should be, and this and that, that still doesn't give us an excuse not to be obedient. Okay, to get wrong, you know, you see, and so we still have to be obedient. All right, as Yahweh Shai was that standard of obedience, man, because his obedience benefited everyone. You know, the obedience of Noah, it benefited everyone. It says in this way, the most high qualified him as a perfect high priest, and he became the source of eternal salvation for all those who obey him. Okay, so his obedience led to him being the source of salvation, okay, for the remnant, okay, for many, okay, through his suffering, you know, many sons will be perfected, okay, as the scriptures say. All right, we'll stay real quick, Hebrews 2, and then we'll play the video. So it's like a 5-minute video. All right, Hebrews chapter 2 and 10. I'm gonna read this in KJV. All right, Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 10. It said, "For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering." Okay, so Yahweh Shai suffering, all right, will lay out the path to bring many sons, okay, unto glory. Okay, and know within that, you know, beginning with the first fruits and the rest of the men, women, and children, all right, that's linked to that. Okay, so through his suffering, all right, many benefited. You see, which is the exact opposite of the culture of the West. Okay, to where people destroy you just for them to benefit. You know, you look at the nature. We always going to it of a dope boy. Okay, he destroys many. Okay, for the benefit of a few. You see, and that's the spirit of what? Of an Edomite. Okay? He runs the earth by destroying many to benefit a few. You see? Okay? The doctrine that he gave to Eve, you know, was for her to benefit in her lifetime. All right. At the suffering of many. Okay? She can enjoy perks and particular things of this society. Okay, at the cost of what? The suffering of many. Her being out of order, okay, causes what? The suffering of many. You see? So this the West teaches our people to be the exact opposite, man. That's why we look to Yahweh Shai. The scripture say, looking unto Yahweh Shai, the author and finisher of our faith. Okay? So let's play this. You know, he gonna make some good points. All right. And America's getting ready. All right. This American society is getting ready to suffer, man. Okay? Because the product that America produces, because like I say the American culture, okay, is exported throughout the earth. Okay. So the scriptures talk about how it corrupts the earth. You know, he's gonna destroy her that corrupted the earth. You see? So it's the most potent right here at home. Okay, the culture that defiles, all right, the earth comes from America. You see? And while scripture say the physician cut off a long disease, man. Okay, and what Esau has conjured up here in America has to be cut off, man. All right. So let's play this. Okay, then we'll get some precepts.
there are a few sort of recurring comments that I get under my videos, especially lately, and I get messages and I get emails, direct messages and emails, and sometimes in the Telegram discussion from Americans. The first message is some variation of, I need to get out of this country. This place is evil. I want to leave. Where can I go? And that desire to get out of America, as I interpret it, is supposed to signal disavowal. It's supposed to mean that the speaker or the person who's sending the message wants to distance themselves. They want to disassociate themselves from America's crimes, and they want to escape. So you might read that as some sort of an awakening on their part, as some sort of a declaration that they're on our side, right? That they realize what a poisonous society they live in and they don't want any part of it. And I suppose on some level that may be true. That may be true on some level, but let's be honest. This is not remorse for the wickedness that America has done to the Middle East, done to Africa, done to Asia, done all across the Western Hemisphere. No, this is not, if we're telling the truth, this is not a sudden stirring of conscience. Now, I'm not saying I don't have sympathy for it. I have sympathy for it, but let's call it what it is. Because you didn't feel any urgent need to escape America when America was making life unlivable for the people in the global South. You understand me? You only feel it when America has started making life harder for Americans, for you and your family and your neighborhood. You didn't disavow and you didn't distance yourself from your nationality when the worst violence was being exported. Only now, when the marauders and the thugs and the mercenaries are turning their guns on you in your own streets. You understand me? You didn't feel any desperation to leave America when your bombs were falling on other people's heads. You didn't feel it when you were enjoying the fruits of America's pillage abroad, when the insecurity and the terror was overseas and you felt safer because of it, when your shelves were stocked, when your gas was cheap and your pizza was guaranteed delivery in 30 minutes or less, you were fine being an American and living in America. When we were the ones getting kidnapped by your masked men in our streets and thrown into the backs of unmarked black vans and locked up in cement boxes with blindfolds on, beaten and electrocuted and humiliated to preserve your democracy, you weren't applying for a passport then. You weren't Googling which country in Asia has the lowest currency against the dollar at that time. You understand? Where was that moral urgency when the United States was sanctioning and starving whole societies? You didn't say, I need to get out of this country because it's doing evil actively across the earth and I want no part of it. You didn't say that then when the evil was directed outwards. Let's be honest. You didn't disavow that evil until it stopped paying dividends. Let's tell the truth. Until it stopped paying dividends and it started wanting to collect back from you. You didn't mind the evil when it was being sent out, but you sure can't stand it once it comes home. And your panic now about having to face what you made millions upon millions of innocent people all around the world face, we're supposed to take that as the awakening of your conscience. No, you enjoyed the meal, but now you want to skip out on the bill. I'm just telling you like it is. Now, suddenly, right? Suddenly, the same people who once treated the horrors that their country was committing in the global South, they treated those horrors as nothing but abstract background noise in their lives. Now, those same people are looking for escape routes to the global South. And that's supposed to be a sign of your virtue? Look, when America's death squads were swarming all over the lands of the global South, these people were sipping their cappuccinos and debating about pronouns. You understand? You had your pop music volume turned all the way up to drown out the sounds of our screaming and weeping. But now they're coming for you and your neighbors. They're coming for you. They're sealing off your country so no one can get in or out. And now you're starting to feel like a fish in a barrel. You're starting to feel like a fish in the barrel, and the shotguns are all pointed at you. And right at that moment, suddenly you have an epiphany about how evil your country is. When just basically a watered down version of the colonial machinery, right, is pressing down on you now with the militarized police, with the ICE, with the crackdowns, the clampdowns, the restrictions on speech, restrictions on protest, intensifying belligerence by the state. You got inflation, deprivation, job layoffs, a comparatively mild version of the neoliberal program that you rammed through economy after economy after economy in the global South breaking the backs of one country after another. And now you want out. Now you want out because you're getting a mild version of that. I mean, think about it. This is not moral outrage. It's outrage about privilege reduction. It's consequence avoidance. The actions of your country against everyone else never prompted you to emigrate. But when the consequences of those actions come, you start packing your bags.
Man, man, you know, he made a point. He said something at the end. He said the outrage is coming from privilege reduction. Okay, it's not that you people are, you know, it's not that you people have morals, okay, or that you know you're complaining because of the injustices, okay, of America in general, okay. You're just pissed that your privileges are being reduced, okay, because you people never, all right, were concerned, okay, about the wickedness, okay, of the West, okay. There's no protest about how wicked, you know, these Western governments are, all right, and how they terrorize the earth, you know, how they, all right, bully, okay, the rest of the earth. They create famine, they create power, they create, you know, these strifes and conflicts and, you know, destabilizations, okay, of these different nations, okay, the enslavement, okay. They make people labor slaves on another level. And now that it started to come home, like he said, okay, now, you know, there's an outcry. Okay. Now Americans are looking to leave, well, that's all part of prophecy, man. Okay, but at the end of the day, okay, well, how America has made people, you know, and the product, okay, the type of person that America produces, okay, is a narcissistic, all right, self-centered, okay, self-worshiping individual. Okay. And that's why I want to go here to some things I was looking up in the chat real quick. All right, so you go into narcissism. It says narcissism is a concept that exists on a spectrum, all right, and it is used in 3 different ways: everyday language, personality traits, and clinical diagnosis. Confusion happens when those mix together. So you go into narcissism in everyday meaning. It says in common speech, narcissism usually means, all right, excessive self-focus, okay, excessive self-focus, seeking attention or admiration, self-centeredness, inflated self-importance. Everybody's a celebrity. Okay? Everybody is important, no matter how trash they are as a person. Okay? No matter how unskillful they are. Okay, in reality, everybody is just super self-important, all right? You know, excessive self-focus, okay, and entitled to, you know, all this attention and admiration, okay, and this is the product of America, okay, and social media has played a big part in it, all right, and you people don't give a damn about the wickedness, okay, of this government, of this American government, this this global Edomite government, of all these Western, okay, governments, man. Okay, you don't give a damn. Never have. You don't know, because your only complaint now is, like he said, is your reduced privileges. Okay, you're not allowed to be a self-centered. You see, you're being forced to make sacrifices. Okay, it says in psychology, narcissism is a trait. And see, Esau say shit like this, like narcissism is a trait that everyone has to some degree, but that's not normal, you know. And that's why, you know, we have to constantly examine ourselves, man, because we have, particular traits of Babylon that are being purged out of us, man. Okay, but that's not normal to be a narcissist, man. Okay, America normalized things that are off, you know, and that just shows you how bad it is that everyone has certain traits to a degree, and that's why we have to constantly, I say, self-examine, because we come out of this, man. Okay, it says let's see. Now you have what you call NPD, the disorder, and a lot of people, just because they haven't been diagnosed, because Esau go by, he throw out some BS numbers. Okay, but you can look at society. Okay, you can read this and you can look at society and diagnose it. Okay, you don't have to have a PhD or a doctrine to look at these niggas. And according to what NPD is, all right, narcissistic personality disorder, all right, it says core features includes grandiose self-image, lack of empathy, entitlement, exploitation of others, intense sensitivity to criticism, chronic relationship problems. Okay, you see, so he give you only this small portion is actually diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, but you look at this and you look out into the world. Okay, and there's a lot of people that's like this, man. Some more than others, man, but there's a lot of people that this is who they are, man. Okay, and this is the product, okay, of America. You see, and I look up, all right, could America be looked at as a narcissistic society? Okay, it says, is America a narcissistic society? In sociological sense, some scholars argue yes, all right, with important caveats. It says individualism is a core American culture. U.S. culture strongly emphasizes personal freedom, self-expression, achievement, and standing out. Okay, well, that's a wicked culture, man. Okay, to where, all right, when you put your own interests above what's good for the overall. Okay, that's why you have certain things like what abortion is, certain surgeries you can have. It's all about your self-interest. Okay, self-expression, achievement, and standing out, and that's the culture. You see, compared to more collectivist cultures, this can look narcissistic from the outside. It is narcissistic. Okay, and it says, uh, consumer and media culture amplify self-focus. Okay, like I say, Jake sell all these drugs for their own financial interests, but destroy, okay, all these families, man. Okay, and which we know the drugs come from Esau. You know, he's the facilitator of a lot of Jake wickedness. The wickedness that Jake has access to, all right, comes from Esau. But Jake participation in it, all right, he's guilty as well. He's wicked as hell. Okay, just for the woman to have this boast that she doing it by herself. Well, the children are suffering. Children are being underdeveloped, but you have this boast, okay, that you doing it yourself. Okay, so just so you can have this boast, okay, amongst the culture, the community, that you're doing it yourself. Okay, children are suffering. You see, it says advertising, influence culture, personal branding. Everybody's this brand. Everybody's always marketing themselves. And social media reward visibility, confidence, and self-promotion. These systems favor behaviors that resemble narcissism without requiring a narcissist, all right, personality. Okay. You see? So this is just the culture of America. Okay, so Christopher Lass, The Culture of Narcissism, argued that the modern American society encourages self-absorption, all right, as a response to economic insecurity and institutional distrust, not vanity alone. Okay, so Esau creates a culture of narcissism, to where everyone is only concerned about what directly affects them. Okay, so that's why you go here. Let's get this in Jeremiah. Let's get a few precepts. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. All right. In verse 14, it said, "Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. Okay. All you that bend the bow, shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she have sinned against the Lord." You see, and there's a major judgment coming to this society, man. Okay, the Lord, he's so pissed. Okay, and he's so against American culture, American society, the ways of the West. Okay, and he's preparing nukes for this place, man. Okay, he's preparing a great fire for this place. Verse 15 says, "Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. Take vengeance upon her, as she have done, do unto her." Okay, so as America has done, do unto her. Okay, and the wickedness that America is responsible for in the world, well, guess what? All this coming back. Okay, all their war wage on these countries. Okay, impoverishing these countries, civil unrest in these countries. Well, all this coming back. You see, all this coming back to America, man. It's going to hit at once. It's just been the buildup, and that's why this time is known as what, the worst times ever, man. All right, because the worst times is coming to America, man. Okay, you go here to the book of Job. Okay, let's get this in the book of Job, chapter 4. Okay, it's the book of Job, chapter 4, and verse 8. It says, "Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same." Okay, and America has a hell of a lot to reap. That's why it was a grace, for the Lord to cause us, to come out of darkness, man. So we won't be linked, okay, with the judgment that's coming to this place, man. As we denounce this place every day and how we live. Okay, our conduct is daily denouncing this place, man. All right, not just because the money ain't like it used to be, or okay, we don't have the privileges we once had. Nah, man, because it's wicked, man. It's anti how about Shema Shai. Okay, ye that love the Lord hate evil. You see, so as we falling back in love with our power, okay, by default we begin to hate the evil and the wickedness of this place, man. Okay, and they're getting ready to reap, okay, everything that they've sown. Okay, the Lord got this place lined up for judgment, man. Okay, so let's go here. We end here. Revelation 19:2 said, "For true and righteous are his judgments, for he have judged the great whore which did corrupt the earth for her fornication, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand, and have avenged the blood of his servants at her hand." Okay, so America, all right, is charged with corrupting the earth. Okay, with rebellion. Okay, because of the ideology of America is anti-Messiah. It's anti-life. And the earth has been corrupted by that. Okay, and Yahweh Shai is coming back, all right, to deal with wickedness at the source. Okay, and this is where we at, you know. So that was the point, you know. I just wanted to get into that, you know. Lord will, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified once again. We give all praise and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rukapadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful and shalom.